The stars looked different now. Daniel Price stared through the viewport of the transport ship, watching Earth shrink behind them. Somewhere down there, his daughter was starting college. His son was graduating high school. Normal life continued while he flew toward something that might change humanity forever. Catherine sat beside him, her hand resting on his arm. After 20 years of marriage, she could read his moods without words. She knew he was thinking about the kids. She was thinking about them too. The journey to Valoris Prime would take 3 weeks. 3 weeks to prepare for the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Daniel had spent months studying the Galactic Council, learning everything Earth's first contact teams had gathered. What he learned made his stomach turn. The Council was old, 12,000 years old. They ruled almost 1,000 different alien species with an iron fist wrapped in bureaucracy. They called it order. They called it peace. Daniel called it something else. Marcus Chen, the security chief, joined them in the observation deck. The former soldier looked uncomfortable in his diplomatic uniform. He preferred combat gear. "They want us to sign the compliance documents as soon as we arrive," Marcus said. "No negotiation. No discussion. Just sign and accept our place as a Class 7 species." Daniel turned from the viewport. Class 7, the lowest ranking in the Council's hierarchy. It meant humanity would exist to serve the higher species. Mining colonies, manual labor, resource extraction. Earth would become a farm for alien empires. "We're not signing," Daniel said quietly. Catherine squeezed his arm. She knew what that decision meant. So did Marcus. The big man nodded slowly. "They won't like that," Marcus said. "No," Daniel agreed. "They won't." The rest of the diplomatic team was smaller than Daniel wanted. Earth could only afford to send 10 people on this mission. 10 people to represent 6 billion humans. 10 people to stand against an empire that spanned the galaxy. Among them was Sophie Martinez, the physicist who made faster-than-light travel possible. She was young, barely 30, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. She spent her days studying the ship's navigation systems, comparing Earth's technology with what the Council used. "Their drives are inefficient," Sophie told Daniel one evening. "They work, but they're based on principles that are thousands of years old. They never innovated, never improved. Why would they?" Catherine asked. She was reviewing biological data on Council species. "When you're on top for 12,000 years, you stop trying to climb higher." That observation stayed with Daniel. Complacency, stagnation. The Council had been powerful for so long they forgot what it meant to struggle. Humanity knew struggle. It was written into every page of human history. Wars, revolutions, survival against impossible odds. Maybe that would make the difference. Valoris Prime appeared on their sensors 3 weeks after leaving Earth. The planet was beautiful, covered in crystal towers that reached into the clouds, cities that held billions of beings from hundreds of worlds. At the center stood the Grand Plaza, where the Council held court, where Daniel would make his stand. They were escorted to the Council chambers by guards who looked like they had never seen combat. Their weapons were ceremonial. Their armor was decorative. They moved like parade soldiers, not warriors. Marcus noticed too. Daniel saw him cataloging every weakness, every tactical error. Old habits, the Council chamber was massive. Representatives from dozens of species sat in tiered rows, looking down at the floor where petitioners stood. At the highest point sat High Arbiter Zarkoth, a reptilian creature with scales like polished stone and eyes like frozen amber. He regarded the humans with something between curiosity and contempt. "Humans." Zarkoth's voice echoed through the chamber. "You have been summoned to acknowledge your place in the galactic order. You will accept classification as Class 7 and submit to Council authority. Your world will provide resources as assigned. Your people will serve where directed." "This is not negotiable," Daniel stepped forward. Catherine moved with him, standing at his shoulder. Marcus took position behind them, hands clasped, watching everything. "With respect, High Arbiter," Daniel said clearly, "humanity rejects your classification." Silence fell across the chamber. Then whispers started, spreading like ripples across water. The representatives looked shocked. Some looked amused. Zarkoth leaned forward slightly. His amber eyes narrowed. "You reject the Council's authority?" "We reject your right to classify sovereign beings as property," Daniel replied. "Earth is an independent world. Humanity will not be enslaved." More whispers. Zarkoth raised a clawed hand and the chamber fell silent again. You misunderstand your position, human. The Council does not negotiate with lesser species. You have no military power. Your technology is primitive. Your world is isolated and vulnerable. You will comply or you will be made to comply. Daniel felt Catherine's hand on his back, a gentle reminder. Stay calm, stay focused. Then we have nothing more to discuss, Daniel said. We came here hoping for dialogue between equals. Instead, we found tyrants. Humanity will return to Earth. We will not return to this council. He turned to leave. That was when everything changed. Seize them, Zarkoth commanded. The ceremonial guard suddenly moved with purpose. Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between the guards and the diplomats, but there were too many. Stun weapons fired. Marcus went down. Others in the delegation fell. Daniel felt Catherine pulled away from him. He tried to reach for her, but his arms wouldn't move. The stun field wrapped around him like invisible chains. He fell to his knees, watching helplessly as his team was dragged away. The next days blurred together in a cell deep beneath the Grand Plaza. They kept Daniel separate from the others. He heard Catherine's voice sometimes calling his name. They were using her to break him. It wouldn't work. Zarkoth visited him once. The High Arbiter stood outside the energy barrier, regarding Daniel like a scientist might study an insect. Your defiance is pointless, the alien said. It always is. Lesser species rebel. We remind them of their place. Order is restored. It has been this way for 12,000 years. And in 12,000 years, has anyone told you that order built on oppression isn't order at all? Daniel asked. It's just tyranny with paperwork. Zarkoth's expression didn't change. Maybe it couldn't. Maybe after 12,000 years of power, his species had forgotten how to feel doubt. You will be tried for sedition. You distributed information about the Council to other Class 7 species. You attempted to incite rebellion. The sentence is death. Daniel's heart hammered, but he kept his voice steady. He had known this might happen. From the moment they decided not to sign, he knew. And my team? They will witness your execution. Then they will return to Earth with our ultimatum. Humanity has 30 days to comply. If you refuse, your world will be quarantined. No ships in, no ships out. Your species will die slowly, alone in the dark. The High Arbiter left. Daniel sat alone in his cell thinking about Catherine, about his children, about Earth. They gave him one courtesy, a final transmission to Earth. 5 minutes to say goodbye to his family and his world. Daniel used 3 minutes to tell his children he loved them, to tell them to be brave, to tell them that some things were worth dying for. He used the last 2 minutes to tell Earth's leaders everything he had learned. The Council was old, complacent, soft. They had forgotten how to fight because no one had challenged them in millennia. They ruled through fear and bureaucracy, not through strength, and they were terrified of rebellion spreading. Don't submit, Daniel said into the camera. Don't bow. Show them what humanity really is. Show them what happens when you push free people too far. The transmission ended. Guards came for him the next morning. They brought him to the Grand Plaza in chains. The same plaza where the Council held ceremonies and celebrations. Today it would host an execution. Cameras from 1,000 worlds broadcast the scene. Zarkoth wanted everyone to see what happened to those who defied the Council. Catherine was in the crowd, held between guards. Her face was wet with tears, but her eyes were fierce. She mouthed 3 words. Daniel read them clearly. Make them pay. Zarkoth stood before the assembled crowd. His voice amplified across the plaza and beyond. Let this be a lesson to all who would challenge the Council's authority. Order must be maintained. Rebellion must be punished. This human chose defiance. This is the price. Daniel Price looked up at the alien sky. He thought about his wife, his children, his homeworld. He thought about every human who ever fought for freedom, every person who refused to kneel, every soul who believed that some things mattered more than survival. The execution device powered up. Energy hummed through the air. Daniel's last words were broadcast live across 1,000 worlds, transmitted to Earth in real time. We bow to no one. The device fired. Ambassador Daniel Price died standing, defiant to his last breath. The Council believed they had sent a message. They believed they had crushed human resistance before it could begin. They were wrong. In killing one human, they gave 6 billion more a reason to fight. In broadcasting their brutality, They showed the galaxy their true nature. In trying to make an example of Daniel Price, they made him a martyr. Catherine watched her husband die and felt something change inside her. Grief would come later. Right now, there was only cold, clear purpose. The news reached Earth before Catherine's ship did. Someone on Valoris Prime had leaked the execution footage. Within hours, every screen on Earth showed Daniel Price's final moments. His last words echoed across the planet. "We bow to no one." The world stopped. Offices emptied. Schools dismissed. People gathered in streets and homes, watching the recording over and over. They saw a human stand before an alien empire and refuse to kneel. They saw him die for that refusal. The reaction was immediate and universal. Rage swept across every continent, every nation, every culture. For the first time in human history, there was no disagreement. No political divide. No religious conflict. 6 billion people united behind a single purpose. War. President Elena Rodriguez called an emergency session of the United Earth Government. Representatives from every nation filled the chamber. The building had been constructed after the first contact, meant to coordinate humanity's response to the stars. Now it would coordinate humanity's response to tyranny. Rodriguez was a small woman with iron in her spine. She had been a soldier before entering politics. She understood what war meant. She also understood what slavery meant. The choice was simple. "We have received the Council's ultimatum," she told the assembly. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped the podium hard enough to turn her knuckles white. "They give us 30 days to submit. To accept classification as a lesser species. To give them control of our world and our people." She paused, looking across the sea of faces. Ambassador Price gave his life to show us who we're dealing with. He died free. He died defiant. He died human. The Council thinks his death will frighten us into submission. They think we'll trade our freedom for survival. Rodriguez released the podium and stood straight. "They're wrong. We reject their ultimatum. We reject their authority. We reject everything they stand for. If they want Earth, they'll have to take it. And we will make them pay for every inch." The vote was unanimous. Every nation. Every representative. For war. Catherine's ship landed 2 days after the vote. She walked down the ramp expecting grief, expecting fear. Instead, she found determination. The spaceport was crowded with volunteers, thousands of them waiting to enlist, waiting to fight. A military escort brought her to the Capitol. Admiral Lisa Grant met her at the entrance to the government building. The admiral was tall and lean, with short gray hair and eyes that had seen combat. She had commanded Earth's defense fleet for 10 years. Now she would command humanity's first interstellar war. "Welcome home, Dr. Price," Grant said. Then more softly, "I'm sorry for your loss." Catherine nodded. She had cried on the ship. She had screamed and raged and broken down. Now there was only cold purpose left. "Don't be sorry," Catherine said. "Just make them regret it." Grant's expression hardened into something predatory. "Oh, I intend to." They brought Catherine to a conference room deep in the building. President Rodriguez was there, along with military commanders from every nation. Maps and star charts covered the walls. Earth's meager fleet orbited above, being rapidly expanded. "We have your husband's notes," Rodriguez said. "His observations of the Council. Their weaknesses. Tell us everything." Catherine spent hours going through Daniel's research. The Council's complacency, their standardized technology, their lack of recent combat experience, their rigid hierarchy that discouraged innovation. "They fight like they've already won," Catherine explained. "Because for 12,000 years they have. No one's challenged them. No one's forced them to adapt. They're powerful, but they're soft. Can we beat them?" asked General Carlos Ruiz, commander of Earth's ground forces. Catherine looked at the star charts. The Council controlled thousands of systems. They had a fleet that numbered in the tens of thousands. Earth had maybe 300 warships, and most of those were patrol boats. In a straight fight? "No," she said honestly. "They'd crush us through sheer numbers." "Then we don't fight straight," Grant said. She moved to the star chart, pointing at Council positions. "We hit them fast. We hit them hard. We make them afraid to garrison their own bases. We turn their size against them." Marcus Chen entered the room. The security chief had cleaned up and changed into a military uniform. The diplomatic corps had dissolved the moment war was declared. Now everyone served the war effort. Their guards were ceremonial, Marcus said without preamble. Pretty uniforms, fancy weapons, zero combat readiness. I watched them. They moved wrong. Stood wrong. They've been playing soldier for so long they forgot what actual soldiers look like. How long would it take to train real soldiers? Rodriguez asked. Depends on what you want, Marcus replied. Troops to hold ground? 6 months. Shock troops to take bases? 3 months. If we just need warm bodies with guns, we can do it in weeks. But that's not what we need. What do we need? Marcus looked at the star chart. At the vast distances between Earth and Council space, we need specialists, ship crews who can fight outnumbered, commandos who can take stations from the inside, pilots who can outfly anything the Council throws at them. That takes time. We have 30 days before their ultimatum expires, Rodriguez said. Then they quarantine us. Sophie Martinez entered the room carrying a data pad. The physicist looked like she hadn't slept in days. She probably hadn't. We won't need 30 days, Sophie said. Give me 6 months and I'll give you a fleet that can fight the Council. Give me a year and I'll give you a fleet that can win. What are you talking about? Grant asked. Sophie pulled up holographic displays. Schematics for a new type of drive system filled the air. The Council uses standard faster-than-light drives. They jump between systems, but it takes time. Hours or days depending on distance. Their fleets move in predictable patterns because they have to follow established routes. She expanded the display. I've been working on quantum displacement, instant travel, no wind-up, no cooldown. You pick a spot and you're there. The Council's sensors won't see us coming because there's nothing to detect until we arrive. The room went silent. Grant leaned forward. That's impossible. The Council thinks so, Sophie agreed. That's why they never tried. But I've run the math. I've done the tests. It works. I jumped a probe 500 light-years yesterday. Instantaneous. The only limit is power generation and navigation calculations. How long? Rodriguez asked. How long to retrofit our fleet? 6 months for the first wave. 100 ships. After that, we can do 100 more every month as we build infrastructure. Within a year, we'll have a fleet of over 1,000 ships that can appear anywhere without warning. Grant was smiling. It wasn't a nice smile. We can strike their bases before they know we're there. Hit them and vanish before reinforcements arrive. They'll have to defend everything, everywhere. All the time we'll bleed them to death, Catherine said quietly. The president looked at each person in the room. Soldiers, scientists, survivors. Then we mobilize. Total mobilization. Every resource, every factory, every person who can contribute. This is survival of our species. We either win or we die. There's no middle ground. She turned to Grant. Admiral, you have command of all military forces. Build me an army. Build me a fleet. When we're ready, you'll take them into Council space and you'll make those aliens regret they ever heard of Earth. Grant stood and saluted. Yes, Madam President, with pleasure. The mobilization began immediately. Every nation contributed. Russia and China opened their military academies to foreign recruits. America and Europe shared weapons technology. African nations provided raw materials. South American factories retooled for ammunition production. Asian shipyards worked around the clock building new vessels. The response from the population was overwhelming. 500 million volunteers in the first week. Young and old. Men and women. People who had never held a weapon signing up to learn. The military had to turn people away. There simply weren't enough training facilities. Marcus took charge of the training programs. He built camps across the planet. Not just for soldiers, but for ship crews, engineers, medics, everyone needed in a war. The training was brutal. Marcus didn't have time to be gentle. He pushed recruits to their limits and beyond. Many washed out. But those who made it through were forged into something hard, something dangerous. Sophie worked in a secure facility outside Geneva. She had a team of 200 physicists and engineers. They worked in shifts 24 hours a day. The quantum drive went from theory to prototype in 2 months, from prototype to production model in another month. The first ship to receive the upgrade was a destroyer-class vessel named Liberty. They tested it in the outer solar system, jumping from Mars orbit to Jupiter in 0 seconds. The crew reported no ill effects. No radiation. No temporal displacement. Just instant travel. It was magic. It was science. It was Earth's salvation. Admiral Grant oversaw the fleet expansion from a command center in orbit. She had been given unlimited authority and unlimited resources. She used both ruthlessly. Earth's existing fleet was scrapped or retrofitted. New designs came off shipyards every week. Fast attack ships, heavy cruisers, carrier vessels, each one equipped with quantum drives, each one armed with weapons designed specifically to counter Council technology. Railguns that could punch through their shields. Missiles that couldn't be intercepted by their point defense. Electronic warfare systems that could blind their sensors. Earth didn't have the numbers, so they built advantages. The first salvo hit Bastion 7 like the fist of an angry god. 200 ships firing simultaneously. Railgun rounds traveling at a fraction of light speed. Missiles with warheads designed to burn through shields. Energy weapons that could melt steel. The station's shields held for exactly 40 seconds. Then they collapsed under the sustained barrage. Without protection, the station's hull was just metal and composite. It might as well have been paper. Inside Bastion 7, chaos erupted. Alarms screamed. Bulkheads collapsed. Atmosphere vented into space through dozens of breaches. The garrison scrambled to battle stations, but most never made it. The human attack was too fast, too coordinated, too overwhelming. Commander Veltrix, a senior officer of the reptilian Sarkoth species, managed to reach the command center. Around him, his crew worked frantically at damaged consoles. The view screen showed hell. Human ships circled the station like sharks, firing continuously. "Get a message out," Veltrix ordered. "Tell High Command we're under attack. Tell them the humans have a new type of drive. Tell them." Another impact shook the station. The lights flickered and died. Emergency power kicked in, bathing everything in red. "Sir, we can't reach anyone. They're jamming all frequencies." "We're blind and deaf, then surrender," Veltrix said. "Open a channel on all bands. Tell them we yield." The communications officer worked desperately, finally got a connection. The view screen flickered to life, showing the bridge of a human ship. A female in uniform sat in the command chair, her expression carved from ice. "This is Commander Veltrix of Bastion 7. We surrender. Please, cease fire. We have civilians here. Medical staff, engineers, non-combatants. We surrender." Admiral Grant looked at the alien commander. She had studied the Sarkoth. They were one of the Council's founding species. They had voted for Daniel Price's execution. She pressed a button. The view screen changed to show footage. Daniel Price standing in chains. Zarkoth pronouncing sentence. The execution device firing. A human dying because he refused to kneel. Grant let the footage play for 30 seconds. Then she switched back to the live feed. "No," was all she said. Then she cut the connection. "Fire," she ordered her crew. The bombardment intensified. Bastion 7's hull began to break apart. Sections of the station explosively decompressed. Emergency pods launched, trying to evacuate, but human fighters destroyed them. Grant had given orders. No survivors. 47 minutes after the attack began, Bastion 7 ceased to exist. The station broke into pieces that tumbled through space, each section trailing atmosphere and debris. 50,000 Council personnel died in those 47 minutes. 3 human ships took damage. 127 crew members were injured. No one died. Grant surveyed the wreckage from her command chair. She felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt. Just cold determination. "Take us out," she ordered. "Next target is the shipyard at Nexus Prime. 2nd Fleet should be hitting it right now. 3rd Fleet has the patrol base at Sirius. We coordinate all attacks within the same hour. Show them we can strike everywhere at once." The fleet jumped away, leaving nothing but wreckage behind. It would be 6 hours before a Council patrol found the remains. By then, the humans had struck 3 more targets. On Valoris Prime, High Arbiter Zarkoth received the first reports with disbelief. Bastion 7 destroyed? Impossible. The station had stood for 8,000 years. It had shields that could withstand a fleet's bombardment. Weapons that could destroy capital ships. "Show me," he demanded. His aides pulled up sensor data. What little had been recovered from automated buoys. The footage was grainy, broken, but clear enough. Human ships appearing from nowhere. Inside the shields, Bastion 7 burning, Zarkoth watched in silence. Then came more reports. Nexus Prime shipyard destroyed. Sirius patrol base obliterated. 3 major installations gone in 1 hour. Casualties in the hundreds of thousands. How? Zarkoth asked. How did they bypass our sensors? How did they appear inside our defenses? No one had answers. The humans had somehow developed a technology the Council didn't understand. Couldn't detect. Couldn't counter. Convene the War Council, Zarkoth ordered. Immediately, the humans are not simply fighting back. They're winning. The Council's military commanders gathered within hours, generals and admirals from a dozen species, each commanding vast fleets. They looked at the tactical displays showing the attacks, analyzed the human tactics, tried to understand what they were facing. Marshal Krendar, a veteran of 1,000 battles against pirates and rebels, spoke first. The insectoid officer's translated voice clicked and hummed. These humans fight unlike any species we've encountered. They show no mercy. They take no prisoners. They specifically targeted our forces at their most vulnerable, when the garrisons were unprepared. That's terrorism, spat another officer. Cowardice. Krendar's compound eyes focused on the speaker. The human general would call it tactics. They cannot match our numbers, so they strike where we're weak. They cannot fight us directly, so they attack indirectly. This is intelligent warfare. We outnumber them thousands to one, said Admiral Thexol, a crystalline being whose species controlled much of the Council's fleet. We could assemble a force that would crush their entire military. And by the time we assemble that force, they'll have struck 20 more targets. Krendar replied. Their new drive technology makes them impossible to intercept. They can appear anywhere without warning. Every station, every base, every world becomes a potential target. Zarkoth listened to the arguments. He had ruled the Council for 3 centuries. He had maintained order through strength and fear. Now a species barely 50 years into space travel was making his commanders sound frightened. Contact the humans, Zarkoth ordered. Offer negotiations. Prisoner exchanges. We have their diplomatic team. We can use them as leverage. The message was sent on all available channels. Reached Earth within hours. President Rodriguez read it in her office. Admiral Grant listening via secure link from her flagship. They want to negotiate, Rodriguez said. They're offering to release Catherine Price and the other survivors in exchange for a ceasefire. Catherine was in the room. She had been consulting with the government on council psychology. She looked at the message and laughed. It was not a happy sound. They're afraid, she said. For 12,000 years, no one's hurt them. Now we've destroyed 3 major installations and they can't stop us. They're trying to buy time. Do we negotiate? Rodriguez asked. Grant's voice came through the speaker, hard as steel. No. They made this a war of annihilation when they executed Price. We respond in kind. Send them footage of Bastion 7. Let them see what happens to those who threaten Earth. Rodriguez nodded. Catherine, what do you think? Catherine thought about Daniel. About watching him die. About the cold satisfaction in Zarkoth's voice as he pronounced sentence. I think we send a message, she said quietly. Not a negotiation. A promise. For every human they've killed, we'll destroy a council base. We'll do it until they're broken or we're dead. We don't stop. We don't forgive. We make them regret Daniel's death every single day. Rodriguez drafted the response herself. It was 4 words long. We bow to no one. Attached was footage from all 3 battles. Bastion 7 breaking apart, Nexus Prime burning, Sirius base exploding, and at the end one more addition, a counter, showing the number of council personnel killed so far. The message ended with a promise. This number will rise until you release every enslaved species, until you disband your council, until you face justice for your crimes. You wanted to teach us our place. Now we'll teach you yours. The message was broadcast across every council channel, every world, every species. Within hours it had spread throughout the galaxy. Lesser species, those classified as Class 7 like humanity, watched in amazement. Humans were fighting back. Winning. Maybe, just maybe, freedom was possible. Grant led her fleet deeper into council space. They struck supply depots, communication relays, patrol bases, anything of military value. The attacks came randomly without pattern. The council couldn't predict where the humans would appear next. The psychological impact was devastating. Council troops on every station went to maximum alert, stayed there for days, then weeks. The stress mounted. False alarms became common. Some garrisons requested transfer. Others simply abandoned their posts. 3 months into the war, the council had lost 40% of their military infrastructure. Their fleet was intact, but they had nowhere to base it. Nowhere to refuel. Nowhere to repair. Human attacks had crippled their logistics, and still the attacks continued. Marcus Chen led a ground assault on a council prison facility. The intelligence said they held captured members of rebellious species, people who had tried to resist the Council's authority. Marcus took a team of commandos through the prison like a scalpel. They killed every guard, freed every prisoner, 7,000 beings from 50 different species. As they evacuated, Marcus left a message painted on the prison walls in 10 different languages. Earth stands with the oppressed. The freed prisoners spread across the galaxy, telling their story, telling how humans had rescued them, how Earth was fighting the Council not just for humanity, but for everyone the Council had enslaved. More species began to rebel. Not organized, not coordinated, just individuals and small groups refusing to comply, sabotaging equipment, hiding resources, making life difficult for Council forces. The Council defense fleet around Valoris Prime numbered 6,000 ships, cruisers, battleships, carriers, enough firepower to level a planet. They had been assembling for the attack on Earth, their crews preparing for what they thought would be an easy victory. They never saw the humans coming. 800 Earth ships materialized in perfect attack formation, spread across 3 orbital zones. Not clustered where point defense could target them easily, not bunched where one lucky shot could damage multiple vessels. Spread out, professional, deadly. The Council fleet scrambled to respond. Alarms screamed across 6,000 ships as crews rushed to battle stations. But the humans had trained for this, drilled for this. They had the advantage of surprise and they used it ruthlessly. The first wave of human missiles launched before the Council fleet could even target them. Thousands of warheads, each one programmed to evade and adapt. They spread out across the battlefield, seeking targets with inhuman precision. Council point defense engaged, shot down hundreds of missiles, but there were too many. The remaining missiles found their targets. Explosions bloomed across the Council fleet like deadly flowers. Admiral Grant watched the tactical display from her command chair. Green icons for human ships, red icons for Council vessels. The red icons were starting to blink out. Second wave, fire at will, she ordered calmly. Target their command ships. Take out their coordination. The battle evolved into something the Council had never experienced. Chaos. Pure, uncontrolled chaos. Human ships moved in 3 dimensions, using their superior acceleration and smaller profiles. They darted between Council vessels, firing from unexpected angles. The Council fleet tried to form defensive formations, tried to coordinate their fire, but human electronic warfare systems jammed their communications, blinded their sensors, made coordination impossible. Each Council ship found itself fighting alone against an enemy that moved like water and struck like lightning. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the destroyer Liberty. His ship had been the first to receive quantum drives. Now it danced through the battle, moving faster than anything the Council had ever seen. Morrison was 32 years old, former Navy pilot. He had enlisted the day Daniel Price died. Now he led a crew of 60 through the most intense combat humanity had ever faced. Liberty, you have 3 Council cruisers on your tail, his tactical officer reported. Morrison checked his displays, saw the pursuing ships, smiled, quantum jump, 0.3 light seconds behind them. Let's see if they can turn fast. Liberty vanished and reappeared behind the pursuing cruisers. Morrison opened fire before they even registered what happened. 3 cruisers destroyed in seconds. Find me another target, Morrison ordered. We're not done yet. Across the battlefield, similar scenes played out. Human crews using tactics the Council couldn't predict, couldn't counter. The quantum drives made them impossible to pin down. They would engage, deal damage, then vanish before the Council could respond. But the Council had numbers. 6,000 ships against 800. For every Council vessel destroyed, there were 10 more to take its place. Human ships started taking damage, started dying. The destroyer Phoenix exploded, taking all 130 crew with it. The cruiser Defiance lost propulsion and drifted helplessly, until Council fire tore it apart. The carrier Washington took a direct hit to its reactor and broke in half. Grant watched her fleet shrink. Watched good people die, but she kept her expression neutral. Showed no fear. Her crew needed to see strength. They're starting to adapt, her tactical officer reported. They're spreading out, making it harder for us to use our mobility advantage. Then we adapt faster, Grant replied. Order all ships to target priority, their flagship. That big bastard at the center of their formation. I want every available weapon pointed at it. Admiral, that's a Dreadnought-class vessel. Shields rated to withstand sustained bombardment from a full battle group. Then we'll hit it with 2 battle groups, Grant said. Do it. 200 human ships converged on the Council flagship. It was a massive vessel, 3 kilometers long, bristling with weapons. The personal command ship of Marshal Krendar himself. The Marshal watched the human forces closing in. He had fought for 500 years, led fleets in dozens of campaigns. He recognized what he was seeing, a coordinated strike. They're sacrificing tactical advantage to eliminate command and control. Clever. He opened communications to his bridge crew. All power to forward shields. Prepare for heavy fire. Get me a firing solution on their largest ship. We'll trade blows. The 2 forces met in a storm of fire. Human ships poured everything they had into the dreadnought's shields. Railgun rounds, missiles, energy beams. The shields held, flickering but solid. The dreadnought returned fire. Its main guns were designed to crack planets. They fired at the human fleet and ships vanished in nuclear fire. Entire crews gone in instants. Grant watched her losses mount. 20 ships, 30, 40. Admiral, we can't sustain this. We need to withdraw. No, Grant said firmly. We break that ship or we die trying. Earth doesn't retreat. Captain Morrison saw the same tactical picture Grant did. Saw the human fleet dying against the dreadnought's shields. Saw the Council rallying around their flagship. He made a decision. Didn't ask permission. Didn't hesitate. All hands, this is the captain. Brace for quantum jump directly to the target. Full speed. All weapons to maximum yield. His tactical officer understood immediately. Captain, that's a suicide run. Morrison looked at his crew. Young faces. Determined faces. People who signed up to fight for Earth. Who believed in something bigger than themselves. I'm not ordering anyone to stay. Escape pods are ready. Anyone who wants to leave, go now. No shame in it. No one moved. His crew stayed at their stations. Morrison felt pride swell in his chest. Pride and grief. Then let's show them what humans are made of. Quantum jump in 10 seconds. Target. The flagship's bridge. Maximum impact velocity. Liberty jumped. Appeared 500 meters from the dreadnought moving at full speed. Morrison had time to see the alien bridge through his viewport. Time to see the Council officers realize what was happening. For price, Morrison said. For humanity. For freedom. Liberty hit the dreadnought at 17,000 kilometers per hour. The quantum drive, still charged, detonated on impact. The explosion was nuclear in scale. A miniature sun blooming in the heart of the battlefield. When the light faded, the dreadnought was broken. Its hull split open. Its shields collapsed. Atmosphere vented from 1,000 breaches. Marshal Krendar and his entire command staff died instantly. Liberty was gone. Jake Morrison and his crew were gone. But they had bought victory with their sacrifice. All ships fire on the flagship, Grant ordered, her voice thick with emotion. Morrison gave us an opening. We don't waste it. The remaining human fleet concentrated fire on the crippled dreadnought. Without shields, it was just a large target. Human weapons tore it apart piece by piece until nothing remained but debris. The Council fleet faltered. Their commander was dead, their flagship destroyed. The humans had done the impossible. Grant pressed her advantage. All ships, weapons free, break their formation, make them scatter. The human fleet surged forward. The Council forces without central command began to fall apart. Some ships tried to retreat. Others fought on alone. A few attempted to surrender, but Grant had given orders. No mercy, no prisoners. The battle raged for 16 hours. When it finally ended, the space around Valoris Prime was a graveyard. 4,000 Council ships destroyed or crippled. 200 human ships lost. It was the bloodiest naval battle in galactic history. It was also a decisive human victory, but Grant wasn't done. She had come here for a specific purpose. She opened communications to the surface of Valoris Prime, to the Grand Plaza where Daniel Price had died. Attention, Council leadership. This is Admiral Lisa Grant of Earth. Your fleet is destroyed. Your defenses are down. We are now targeting the government district. You have 30 minutes to evacuate civilians. After that we fire. She cut the connection. Looked at her weapons officer. 30 minutes. Then we make them understand the cost of killing our people. On Valoris Prime, chaos consumed the government district. High Arbiter Zarkoth watched the battle from his command bunker. Watched his fleet die. Watched human ships dominate his homeworld's orbit. This is impossible, he whispered. We are the Council. We rule the galaxy. How can primitives defeat us? An aide spoke nervously. High Arbiter. The humans are giving us 30 minutes to evacuate. The government district, the Grand Plaza, everything in a 10-kilometer radius, we don't evacuate. Zarkoth snarled. We don't bow to terrorist demands. Scramble the remaining defense forces. Get every ship we have into orbit, sir. We have no ships left. The fleet is destroyed. Zarkoth turned to face his aide. For the first time in his long life, he felt something unfamiliar. Fear. Then we're trapped. They can bombard us at will, and we can't stop them. Catherine Price stood in the observation deck of Indomitable, looking down at Valoris Prime. The planet was beautiful from orbit. Blue oceans. Green continents. White clouds. She could see the Grand Plaza from here, the place where Daniel died. Grant joined her, checking her timepiece. 10 minutes until we fire. Have they evacuated? Catherine asked. Partially. We're seeing crowds leaving the government district. But... Part 5. The space station Unity 1 floated in neutral territory, equidistant from Earth and Valoris Prime. It had been built in the months following the war, constructed jointly by human engineers and workers from a dozen alien species, a symbol of cooperation, a promise of something better. Catherine Price walked through the station's central corridor, flanked by security. She wasn't a soldier or a politician. She was a scientist who had lost her husband to tyranny. Now she carried his legacy forward in a way he never could have imagined. The conference hall held representatives from 847 species. The entire former council. Some came willingly, eager to participate in building a new order. Others came because they had no choice. Their military forces destroyed or disbanded. Catherine took her position at the center podium, not elevated above others like the old council chambers, at the same level, equal. She looked out across the assembled delegates, saw species she had studied from textbooks, beings who had been part of the council for thousands of years. Now they waited to hear what Earth proposed. Thank you for coming, Catherine began. Her voice was steady. She had practiced this speech for weeks. I stand before you not as a conqueror, but as someone who lost everything to the old order. My husband died because he believed that all beings deserve freedom, that no species has the right to enslave another. His death started a war. Today we end that war and begin something new. The room was silent, listening. Earth does not want to rule you. We fought the council because we refuse to be ruled ourselves. We will not replace one tyrant with another. Instead, we propose a federation, a democratic union where every species has a voice, where decisions are made by consensus, not by force. Murmurs spread through the crowd, some skeptical, some hopeful. A delegate from the Zarkoth species stood. Her scales were dull with age, her movements slow. She had been part of the council for 200 years. You say you want democracy, the Zarkoth said, but you hold all the military power. You destroyed our fleet, killed our leaders. How do we know this isn't simply conquest by another name? Catherine met her gaze. You don't. You have to trust us. Just as we have to trust you not to rebuild your military and attack us when we're weak. Trust is what the old council lacked. Trust is what we must build. She gestured to Admiral Grant, who stood at the side of the room. Earth is dismantling its war fleet. We're keeping enough ships for defense and peacekeeping, but we're converting most of our military production to civilian use. We're sharing the quantum drive technology with any species that wants it. We're opening our scientific research to collaboration. Another delegate stood. This one was a crystalline being, light reflecting off its faceted surface. And what of justice? The old council committed atrocities, enslaved entire species. My people were forced to mine toxic materials that killed millions. Where is justice for us? Catherine nodded. That is why we propose war crimes trials. Anyone accused of atrocities under the council will face fair trial, with evidence, with defense, with judges from multiple species. Not revenge, but justice. Who judges the judges? Another voice called out. Who decides what is crime and what is following orders? We all do, Catherine replied. Together. That's what democracy means. It's messy. It's slow. It's imperfect. But it's better than what came before. The debate continued for hours. Some delegates argued for harsh terms. Others wanted leniency. Species that had suffered under the council wanted compensation. Species that had benefited from it wanted protection from retribution. Catherine listened to all of it. Mediated disputes, suggested compromises. It was exhausting. It was frustrating. But slowly, painfully, a framework began to emerge. The conference lasted 3 weeks. At the end, they had a document. The Price Accords, named for the man whose death had made this possible. It outlined a new galactic government, democratic, decentralized, built on consent rather than coercion. The vote to ratify came on a gray morning. Catherine stood before the assembly one final time. "This document is not perfect," she said. "Nothing created by imperfect beings ever is. But it's a start. It's a promise that we can do better. That we will do better for all the species the Council oppressed, for all the beings who died fighting for freedom, for everyone who believed that tomorrow could be better than yesterday." The vote was overwhelming. 712 species in favor, 135 abstaining or opposed. It was enough. The Galactic Federation was born. On Earth, celebrations erupted. People danced in the streets. The war was over. Humanity had survived, more than survived. They had changed the galaxy, but Catherine felt no urge to celebrate. She sat alone in her quarters on Unity 1, holding Daniel's locket. Admiral Grant found her there. The Admiral looked different in civilian clothes. She had resigned her commission as promised. Earth's military was shrinking to peacetime levels. "We did it," Grant said quietly. "Build something new." "Think it'll last?" Catherine shrugged. "Maybe, maybe not. Humans are good at starting things. Whether we're good at maintaining them, that's another question." Grant sat down across from her. "I'm taking a position as ambassador to the Sarkoth homeworld. Someone has to build bridges with our former enemies. That's brave of you." "They lost thousands to our attacks and we lost thousands to theirs," Grant replied. "If we can't forgive, we'll just fight the same war again in 50 years. Someone has to break the cycle." Catherine smiled. "That's very diplomatic of you, Admiral." "Former Admiral," Grant corrected. "I'm just Lisa now. And what about you? What comes next for Dr. Catherine Price?" Catherine looked at the locket. At Daniel's picture. At the man who had started all of this with a simple refusal to bow. "I'm going back to science. Xenobiology. Understanding how different species work, how they think. If we're going to make this Federation work, we need to understand each other." She closed the locket. "And I'm going to teach. Make sure the next generation knows what was sacrificed, what was won, so they don't take it for granted." Grant nodded. "That's important work. Maybe more important than what we did in the war." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Two women who had been shaped by war trying to figure out peace. "Do you regret it?" Catherine asked suddenly. "What we did? The people we killed?" Grant was quiet for a long time, finally spoke. "Every day, I see their faces. The council officers who surrendered and we killed anyway. The civilians caught in bombardments. Morrison and his crew who died because of orders I gave." She looked at Catherine. "But I don't regret fighting. The council was evil. They enslaved species, crushed freedom. Someone had to stop them. Better us than no one." Catherine understood. War was never clean, never simple. You did terrible things in hope that something better could grow from the ashes. Whether something better actually grew, that remained to be seen. The memorial was erected on Valoris Prime, in what had been the Grand Plaza, the site where Daniel Price had been executed, where the council government had stood for 12,000 years. Now it was something else. A monument to those who died in the war, all of them. Human and alien, council and rebel, military and civilian, 500,000 names carved in stone. Each one a life ended, each one a story cut short. Catherine stood before the memorial on the anniversary of Daniel's death. A year had passed since the execution. A year of war and victory and painful peace. People gathered around her. Humans and aliens, former enemies standing together, some to mourn, some to remember, some to try to understand. She stepped forward to speak. They had asked her to dedicate the memorial. She had initially refused, but President Rodriguez convinced her. "Your husband started this. You should finish it." Catherine looked at the names. Found Daniel's near the top. Found Jake Morrison's nearby. Found thousands of others she didn't know but who had died in humanity's war. "My husband was not a perfect man," she began. Her voice carried across the silent crowd. "He was stubborn, idealistic. He believed that some things mattered more than survival, more than peace. He believed in freedom." She paused. Collected herself. "The council killed him for that belief, executed him publicly to make an example, to show the galaxy what happened to those who defied them. In doing so, they made the greatest mistake of their 12,000-year history. They gave humanity a martyr. They gave us a cause." Catherine gestured to the memorial. "But this monument is not just for Daniel. It's for everyone who died in the war that followed. Council soldiers who were just following orders. Civilians caught in crossfire. Rebels from 100 species who saw a chance for freedom and took it. They all paid the price for the Council's tyranny. And for humanity's response, the crowd was absolutely silent. War is not glorious. It's not noble. It's death and destruction and grief. We won, but victory tastes like ash when you count the cost. 500,000 names, 500,000 lives, 500,000 people who will never see tomorrow. She took a breath. We cannot bring them back. We cannot undo what was done. But we can honor their sacrifice by building something worth the price they paid. A galaxy where freedom is protected, where species govern themselves, where no one is executed for believing in liberty. Catherine looked directly at the camera recording the ceremony. Knew her words would be broadcast across the Federation. This memorial stands as both a tribute and a warning. A tribute to those who died fighting for a better galaxy. A warning to future generations. Never again. Never again.